Lately, I've been hearing a version of the same thing from people who are leading teams, managing transitions, making decisions for everyone else, and trying to hold everything together. They keep telling me I'm confused. I don't know what to do next. I can't make a decision. But when we sit there and actually slow it down, confusion isn't always a real issue. Sometimes you already know the truth. You know the role doesn't fit anymore, even if the money is good and the title makes sense on paper. You know the relationship is taking more than it's giving back. And you know that the version of success that you have built has started costing you more than you want to admit. Knowing was never the hard part. You already know. The hard part is admitting what you know. Because once you admit it, you have to decide what you are going to do next. That's why I'm bringing this episode back as an encore, because pretending has a price. So as you listen, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. What truth am I pretending to not know?
Welcome to We Are Women, Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
There are moments in life that the truth just smacks you in the face. You know it, you feel it. It's the job that drains your soul, the friendship that leaves you heavy, the relationship that doesn't fit anymore. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But here's the thing. Most of us try. We bury it. We tell ourselves it's fine. We stay busy. We stay distracted. And ultimately, we stay stuck. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, this dance that we do with our own awareness and how we will do absolutely anything to avoid admitting what deep down we already know. We create elaborate stories, we make endless excuses, we will even convince ourselves that ignoring the truth is more noble than facing it. But here's the deal. Pretending you don't see the truth, that's not survival, that is self-betrayal. And every single day you ignore it, you are trading tomorrow's possibilities for today's comfort. You are trading your future for fear. Today I have two short stories to share with you. One is about my last role and one is about a friendship. In my last role, it looks solid on paper, but I remember sitting in meetings at 7 a.m. People are talking in technical jargon and my eyes just want to glaze over. I remember I got to the point where I knew I never wanted that job. I was drowning and I was so unhappy. I had this hollowness in my chest, like I was watching someone else's life through a window. And here's what I realized is that success without alignment isn't success. It is a slow death. Maybe you know that feeling. Sitting in meetings that don't light you up, saying yes to work you don't care about, delivering, performing, but deep down you know, this isn't me anymore. I also want to talk to you about a friendship. I was once friends with a girl that I had met through mutual friends. At first, it was fine. We hung out, we laughed, but over time, there was a pattern that emerged with her. Every single time she was around, there was drama. Chaos seriously followed her around like a lost puppy dog. And it started small, but after time, just the sound of her voice sounded like nails on a chalkboard. When I'd see her walk into a room, I would literally hold my breath waiting for something to happen because 9 times out of 10, it was going to. She always had to be the center of attention, always had to one-up everyone else, and always had to suck the life out of the room. After every hangout, I felt heavy and drained. I felt like I needed silence just to recover. At first, I excused it because she was going through a tough time. I was thinking maybe I'm just being too sensitive. But eventually, I had to face it. This was not friendship. This was a transaction for attention. And if she was going to be there, I didn't want to be. I had been raised to believe that good people don't give up on friendships. But over time, I have learned that loyalty without boundaries isn't loyalty, it is self-abandonment. regardless if it is in your personal or professional life. So I stopped inviting her. It's not something I did out of cruelty. I did it out of clarity and boundaries. And that is when I remembered something. It's okay for friendships to expire too. I have some friendships that have lasted a lifetime, but I've also remembered that friendships expire too. Some friendships are only here for a season. And she honestly was not meant to come on this next chapter with me. There was a Harvard study done, and they follow people for over 80 years, and they found that our quality of relationships is actually the single biggest predictor of not only our happiness, but also our health. It wasn't money, it wasn't status, it's relationships. And in that study, they also found that toxic relationships don't just drain you emotionally. They weaken your immune system, raise your stress hormones, and can literally shorten your lifespan. So here is your check-in. When you leave someone's presence, when you leave your job, do you feel lighter or heavier? Do you feel seen or do you feel drained? Do you feel encouraged or exhausted? Because that is your nervous system giving you data. That is your soul screaming to be heard. Ignoring it doesn't preserve the relationship. It doesn't preserve the job security. It corrodes you. Here's the long game. The energy that you waste managing someone else's chaos is energy you don't get back. That's the trade-off. Are you willing to give that up? If you answered no, you might be thinking, well, why do we do this? Why do we ignore what we already know? Here's the truth. It is because admitting the truth means facing change. And change means loss. Loss of comfort, identity, and control. Brené Brown calls this foreboding joy. We sabotage our clarity because the vulnerability of change feels unbearable. But let me tell you, you're not confused. You already know. You are just scared of the fallout. Fear actually tricks you into believing misalignment is safer than uncertainty. But I am here to tell you it's not. It just costs you slower. What most of us tell ourselves is that if I just ignore it, it will pass. But the deeper truth is, once you know, you can't unknow. And that knowing is only going to grow louder until you honor it. But here's the best part. When you finally honor it, you don't lose yourself. You finally meet yourself. But every year that you spend pretending, that is another year you teach yourself your inner voice can't be trusted and your future isn't worth protecting. That is not just sad, that is dangerous. Because the longer you wait, the more resilience it will take to make the change you already know you need. The cycle usually goes like this. You have awareness, you feel the truth. Then there's fear. You panic about the consequences. Then there's avoidance. You just bury it down, think it'll go away. And then you repeat until you're finally burned out. But there's another stage that people don't talk about, and that is resentment. Resenting yourself for not acting sooner. That is the real toxin. Resentment makes you bitter about the opportunities you didn't take, the boundaries you didn't set, and the truths you did not honor. And to be honest, there's only one way out. That is to honor the awareness before it hardens into regret. Here's what I need you to understand is that truth isn't a punishment. It's an invitation. The job that drains you isn't failure. It is your signal to pivot. The friendship that drains you is not betrayal. It's your cue to protect your peace. the relationship that doesn't fit is not the end. It is the call to grow. The truth is not the problem. The truth is the gift, if you are willing to accept it. Because the moment that you name it is the moment you reclaim your power. I mean, think about it. Every single boundary that has changed your life started with one act of honesty. Every pivot you're proud of was born from honoring a truth that you had originally buried. So instead of asking what happens if I admit the truth, start asking what happens if I don't. Because the answer is simple. Years wasted. Here's your reset action for this week. Set aside 10 minutes. No phone, no distractions, maybe even 5 minutes, whatever you have. Write down the answer to this question. What is the truth I am pretending to not know? Then I want you to write down, what would honoring this truth cost me? And then, what would ignoring this truth cost me in 5 years from now? Here's the reality. The cost of honoring truth is temporary. The cost of ignoring it, that's permanent. If you want to go deeper into these questions, download the Clarity in 10 Reset in the show notes. The truth that you are avoiding is not your enemy. It is your compass. It's pointing you towards the life that is yours, not the one that you have built for someone else's approval. Every single decision you make from truth builds a foundation that you can actually stand on. Every boundary you set from honesty, it strengthens your future. The woman you are becoming, she doesn't fear the truth. She welcomes it because she knows deep down it's the fastest path to freedom. You already know. You have always known. The question is, when will you honor what you know? So here is your reminder. The truth is not punishment, it's permission. Permission to pivot, permission to protect your peace, permission to grow. If this episode resonated, I ask that you share it with someone who needs to hear this. Download the Clarity in 10 guide when you're ready. Connect with me on LinkedIn because you do not have to carry the weight of pretending anymore. And until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.